Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates and a bit of a Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Star Wars gaming news roundup, because I am now back from a 1 week vacation and it feels good to be back with some new content for you guys, and of course some live streams starting tonight, so make sure to look out for that. And if you're interested in just seeing some pictures from my vacation or just following my summer overall, make sure that you head over to my Instagram, as I've been trying to be a bit more active with the Instagram stories there and just posting overall, because I always tend to post most of the stuff on Twitter, but I'm trying to post a little bit more on Instagram as well. So links to my social media will, as always, be in the description below if you are interested. But now let's talk about Star Wars games and Battlefront 2 to be more specific, because there's been quite a lot of things happening while I was gone that I've tweeted about, but I haven't made any videos about it. So just before I left, there was obviously a new patch that brought in hero starfighters, a lightsaber ignition, and more. But unfortunately, it also broke quite a lot of stuff, like many of the recent patches unfortunately have done for Battlefront 2, which really is a shame, and it's something that this game really doesn't need. It's already in a very fragile state, so seeing how there's constantly these kind of bugs, sometimes game-breaking bugs, making its way into the game is incredibly annoying, as someone who really wants this game to thrive. But I could go on about that for a very long time, but let's go into the actual specifics instead. So the challenges had some issues initially after the patch, where they were delayed and there was completion spam, but both of those two have been fixed as of making this video. But something that has kind of gone under the radar is that when they did increase the amount of challenges you get every day to 3, they actually made the challenges individual instead, which means that if you have a challenge saying get 10 kills with Yoda, that doesn't mean that everyone else in the game has the same challenge. A very good change in my opinion, considering that otherwise every single player flocked to the same heroes or the same characters, as they just had to get that challenge done. But now everyone's gonna have different challenges, which is a very welcome change, as it will most likely balance out the game modes a bit more, especially the hero game modes, where some people just jumped in to get that challenge done. And the big bug that slipped into the game was unfortunately that Palpatine could yet again shoot through walls and was just overall incredibly powerful. So they decided to kill switch him after a day, where they removed him from all multiplayer game modes server side, so that you can no longer play him in the game. This is only temporarily though, and keep in mind that you can play him in arcade, so if you miss the Senate a lot, you can still go in and kill some bots with him if you want to, but he will be returning after he has been hotfixed, and I will have some more details about the actual hotfix later in the video. Another bug that slipped in was that you couldn't board the shuttle in Evo count, so they quickly removed Evo count from the menu, and that will also be returning once that is fixed. Another issue was that in hero starfighters, after you got hard locked by another hero, you got a 1 to 2 second stutter. I did notice this when I played the game mode just before leaving, and it was quite annoying, but apparently it does have to do with the hard lock, and it will be fixed in an upcoming hotfix as well. And lastly, we of course have the big stamina changes that were supposed to make the hero combat better, but unfortunately kind of had the opposite effect. There's been quite the outrage about this, but when I played the hero game modes, I actually thought it was fairly okay. It made the lightsaber and lightsaber combat better, as it wasn't just blocking all the time, but however, it doesn't work very well against blaster heroes, and especially in Galactic Assault, where some heroes like Kylo are now incredibly weak, especially considering that just lifting up your lightsaber took 60 stamina, which is way too much. I think the stamina should just go down when you actually block a bolt, not just by basically raising your lightsaber up. These stamina changes were unfortunately not very good, and that's also something that will be adjusted. And yesterday we did get an update on all of these bugs with the situation they are currently in terms of fixing them, so I'm just gonna go and read through Ben's comments about that right now. So regarding lightsaber combat, they have made some changes to the way stamina works across a number of heroes. We've been tweaking various values, and these are currently being tested. An example of one of the things we're testing is for Kylo, where we've reduced the deflect press cost from 60 to 15. So that's a quite significant jump. I mean, that's pretty much a quarter of what it is right now, which I think is good. I don't think they should remove the stamina changes altogether, but they should basically nerf them down so that you don't get the stalemate where you block for 10 minutes until one of you gives up, but that you shouldn't run out of stamina in 2 seconds if people shoot at you either. So they need to find a balance there, and I really hope they will playtest this version properly before releasing it. And moving on, there has been some other issues with the ping sites not working properly. And Ben said that towards the end of last week and over the weekend, we saw an increase in players talking about an issue where the default ping site would not save and set itself to another random location. Since then, our QA teams have been working to find a reproduction of this issue. This is one of those issues that was problematic, and finding an exact repro was difficult. However, earlier on today, the teams made a breakthrough where we're currently investigating a potential fix. In the meantime, a potential workaround for those of you suffering from this issue is to disconnect from the internet while in the game, wait for the disconnected from EA servers message to appear, and then reconnect. This should default you back to the closest ping site. Please note that changing this setting again will likely cause the issue to reappear. So if you've had this issue and you're waiting for the hotfix and it's causing you a lot of trouble, make sure to go through that workaround that I just brought up, as that will hopefully make you able to play until they release the actual hotfix for this issue. The stutter that was caused by being hard locked in Starfighter Assault and Hero Starfighters is also on our hit list to be fixed. The primary issue that we have is that we can reproduce this issue to 100% success in the live environment, which is the one we play in, but on their internal development version of the game they can't reproduce it. So they're still investigating and hoping that they will find a fix. And this is kind of the issue that I see a lot of these bugs having, where they test it locally on their development builds and there's no issues, but then they release it to the public and the issues appear. I think that's basically something that's flawed in their current testing system, where the live system is too different to the development system. And it's not a matter of, oh, they just missed the issue and didn't play test it properly. They did, but it seems like with the current tools, they just can't find some of these bugs, which really is a shame. I wish they could make like a live environment that was somehow closed off, so that they can actually find these issues, because a lot of them are things that you can find by basically playing for 5 minutes. So if they were able to test that in a live environment before it actually goes live, well then hopefully we wouldn't get these issues. And moving on to Palpatine, as you know, we flipped the kill switch on Palpatine, and while this is always a difficult decision to make, we do believe that it was the right one. We're tracking numerous issues that resulted in him being vastly overpowered. Once the hotfix has been deployed, we will revert the kill switch and he will return to the game. An issue that prevented stormtroopers from being able to board the shuttle in Evo count has been fixed and has currently been placed into our hotfix. This is also the case where objective markers were misplaced in extraction on Kessel and Jabba's palace. Those will be coming in the hotfix as well. But he also says that as of right now we don't have a set date for the hotfix. This is because we want to ensure that when we release it, it fixes all of the issues above. We'll keep you posted with how things are progressing. So that's the current state of all of those bugs, and as soon as we know anything else, I will of course let you know. And in some good news, they've actually increased the Hero Showdown experience quite a lot 2 days ago, and Ben confirmed that they increased it by roughly 3 times the amount it previously had, and they will be testing this for 2 weeks to see if the number is good and then make the change permanent. And I'm very happy about those news, because I prefer Hero Showdown over Heroes vs Villains, so that means that now I don't have to go to Heroes vs Villains to get some decent XP, as you will be able to get that in Hero Showdown. That brings all the Battlefront 2 news to an end, but now over to some quick open world Star Wars news. Because Game Informer sat down with the Motive Studios general manager Jade Raymond at this past E3 and got a couple of snippets in regards to the new open world Star Wars game that they are working on, that they are continuing from Amy Hennig's game over at Visceral Games. But it seems to be a very different game based on these comments, and also based on what Amy Hennig previously said on Twitter, because they are completely remaking it. So first of all, she said that the core team there is super strong. There are people who had worked on Skate, SSX, as well as Need for Speed games. And she also moved on saying there are people who worked on Sleeping Dogs, a bunch of people who worked on Prototype, some who worked on a new IP that was kind of open world. So there is a mix of people from the original team and people who were supplemented. So some people from Visceral did indeed come over, and a lot of people are also new. Sleeping Dogs was a very successful and popular open world game, so the fact that they have developers from that game on this new open world Star Wars game is very promising. But we've seen promising things before, and until we get to see some significant gameplay or actual details about the game, I'm gonna be carefully optimistic about it. And when she was asked about how much they're keeping from Visceral's Star Wars game, she said, "I don't know how much we're saying about that stuff, but the goal is We have 3 terabytes of Star Wars artwork, which is crazy, and there is a lot of really good work there. When we announced we were moving the game, the idea was pivoting more into player agency, but still keeping a lot of the stuff that was great about it. There was a lot of really cool stuff, like tons of assets and really cool characters that had been created, so there's the goal of making sure we use all of that. So those comments really make me think that they're not gonna go through the same exact story or linear story like the Visceral's game was gonna do, but that they're instead gonna work on actually using all of those assets that were most likely made in the Frostbite engine, like characters, weapons, effects, and all those things that does take a lot of time to create, but then reuse them for something completely else in this open world Star Wars game. Is it good or bad? Well, I think personally that this is a good move. Motive have shown that they're capable of creating good stuff before, and they obviously have some very good devs on that project. And on top of that, we do have a linear single player game coming next year from Respawn, so the fact that the next game after that might be an open world game is good in my personal opinion. Again, we don't know much, and this seems to be in a fairly early stage, so who knows, maybe we will have another disappointing cancelled Star Wars game. But it could also turn out to be really cool, and I hope that's what's gonna happen, but I doubt we're gonna hear a lot about this game until next year, the earliest, considering that they very recently took over the development from Visceral Games. But that is all the news I have for you guys now. It's good to be back home, and you can expect the coverage to be back to its normal quick response, and you won't have to wait a week for the news updates now either. But thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.